rolling 4 deep up in the Malibu. I slide through where they slide through and serve beef like a drive-through. My crew brings Christ to the alley. I'm a Cali fool, feed him the rock, call it the alley-oop. Yeah, Brody, you shanking where I bring the word. Gunshots, holding prayer circles where they stain the curb. We make disciples where they're toting Glocks, cause it's funkier than dope fiend socks. The block's hotter than some old steam pots. They rock product till the whole thing drops, chopping and hit the block from old green knots. God's the Father.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the Brody File. Glad you're with us. Donald Trump, Inauguration Day. Oh, liberals, get ready because President-elect Donald Trump is about to be President Trump. And he's getting in the mood with a press conference and all of that. And yes, I know he has not had a press conference since he became the president-elect, but he had one in New York. Recently, Jennifer Wishon, Jenny in the B block, in the A block this week, and in New York for that press conference.
For President-elect Donald Trump, his relationship with the media is complicated at best.
It's very familiar territory, news conferences, because we used to give them on a almost daily basis. I think we probably maybe won the nomination because of news conferences.
He awoke to learn BuzzFeed had published an unverified report full of errors that suggests Moscow has incriminating evidence against him. Team Trump piled on.
The fact that BuzzFeed and CNN made the decision to run with this unsubstantiated claim is a sad and pathetic attempt to get clicks.
You know, I have long been a supporter of a free and independent press, and I always will be. But with freedom comes responsibility.
It's a sign of the relationship to come between the future president and the press. Trump doesn't believe the mainstream media treats him with respect. He thinks they're in the tank for Democrats and don't appreciate the American movement he's tapped into.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, not you. Not you. Your organization's terrible. Your organization's terrible. Let's go. Go ahead. Quiet.
His staff has promised to shake up the White House briefing room. Despite this love-hate relationship, Trump wasn't rattled at his first press conference since winning the election. He says Russia is responsible for the cyber hack of the DNC, but says that's not where all the focus should be, since other countries like China hack the U.S. too. He's appointing a special committee to come up with ways to make America's cyberspace more secure in his first 100 days. Trump also answered how he'll separate himself from his vast business holdings. Dozens of folders hold documents he's signed to turn his companies over to a trust to be managed by his 2 sons.
I hope at the end of 8 years I'll come back and I'll say, oh, you did a good job. Otherwise, if they do a bad job, I'll say, you're fired.
While in office, Trump will also donate profits from his international hotels to the U.S. Treasury. The president-elect is also moving forward with one of the greatest responsibilities of his new job, appointing a new justice to the Supreme Court.
It'll be a decision which I very strongly believe in. I think it's one of the reasons I got elected. I think the people of this country did not want to see what was happening with the Supreme Court.
Now he's looking forward to his inauguration and celebrating with the Americans who put him in office.
Because we have a movement. It's a movement like the world has never seen before. It's a movement that a lot of people didn't expect.
Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Trump Tower, New York.
And Jennifer Wishon joins us now from the Big Apple, New York City. Jennifer, some of your impressions. What do you think? First press conference by the president-elect.
Well, David, as usual, it was a bit of a show, a bit of a production. You saw there the back and forth between the future president and the press. I mean, that is only going to continue as he takes the oath of office. You know, we also heard finally, how he plans to handle his vast business empire, his international business empire, once he becomes president. And that is, he's going to turn over control to his 2 sons, Eric and Donald Jr., along with a 3rd associate, who are going to run the company. His daughter, Ivanka Trump, is not going to have anything to do with the business dealings of the Trump organization. He's also putting in place an ethics council that will review any deals being considered by his company to make sure that there's not even a hint of impropriety between his presidency and anything that his business is doing. We also heard the president-elect say for the first time that Russia is indeed responsible for the hacking of the DNC. But he said, look, lots of countries hack us. Russia tries to hack us. China has hacked 22 million U.S. accounts. So he says, you know, it's not just Russia that should be the focus of this, and he plans within the first 90 days of his presidency to hear back from a committee that he's going to appoint on how America can be more secure when it comes to cyber hacking. So, David, it's clear that it's going to be a wild ride, and we are just days away from him becoming the next president of the United States.
Jennifer, thank you so much. Stay warm up there. It's chilly. Wear a hat. Vitamin C if you get cold, if you catch a cold. I'm just saying, it's what my mom told me. I grew up in New York. Got to wear a hat. There's a lot of wind tunnels up there. Thank you, Jennifer. Hey, a few other things going on before the big inauguration day. Many confirmation hearings. Cabinet members trying to get confirmed. Most, if not all, will get confirmed. However, there are a couple of potential trouble spots for this administration. Senator Jeff Sessions going for Attorney General, nominated for Attorney General. And of course, he's had some run-ins, if you will, in the past with liberals about the fact that, well, he has been sometimes maybe racially insensitive, or at least that's the charge. Of course, he's pushing back on all of that. And some of that racial hostility that the liberals have been directing Sessions' way came to the forefront at the hearing. Have a look.
People have fairly promptly tried to label you as a racist or a bigot or whatever you want to say. How does that make you feel?
When I came up as a United States attorney, I had no real support group. I didn't prepare myself well in 1986, and there was an organized effort to caricature me as something that wasn't true. And it was very painful. I didn't know how to respond and didn't respond very well. I hope my tenure in this body has shown you that the caricature that was created of me was not accurate. It wasn't accurate then, and it's not accurate now.
Beyond Jeff Sessions, Rex Tillerson for Secretary of State also on the hot seat. Vladimir Putin, Rex Tillerson, golfing buddies. All right, maybe they're not golfing buddies, but they're very, very close. And that is problematic for even some Republicans like John McCain, Lindsey Graham, and some others. And that was part of what was discussed at Tillerson's hearing on the Hill. Have a look.
We're not likely to ever be friends. I think, as others have noted, our value systems are starkly different. We do not hold the same values. But I also know the Russian people because of having spent so many years in Russia. There is scope to define a different relationship that can bring down the temperature around the conflicts we have today. And I think at this point, they clearly are in the unfriendly adversary category. I hope they do not move to enemy, because that would imply even more direct conflict with one another.
But you don't hold up much hope that we can move them into the friendly rival category, maybe partners where we have mutual interest?
Yeah, Senator, I tend to think of that in three categories. There are our friends, there are our partners, and there are our adversaries. And at times, certainly our friends are partners from time to time on specific actions. Our adversaries from time to time can be partners, but on other issues, we're just not going to agree. And so we remain adversaries.
The expectation here, by the way, is that most of these cabinet members will be in place sometime in late January, some potentially in early February, but most likely most of these folks will get confirmed in the later part of January, so Donald Trump will be up and running in his administration. By the way, speaking of Donald Trump, in a way, I have a Brody File commentary coming that has to do with Donald Trump and also President Obama. It's this week's Brody File commentary. Well, look, we've heard a lot about Barack Obama over the last 8 years, and we've heard about his legacy, and for sure he will go down as a historical president, the first African-American president in American history, and that's a big deal, no doubt about it. Forget all of the left-leaning, right-leaning pundits. It is a huge deal. But there's another legacy that Donald Trump, or excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. Another legacy that Barack Obama leaves behind, and that is Donald Trump. In other words, the legacy of Barack Obama is Donald Trump. What do I mean by that? Look, let's be honest. Donald Trump doesn't even get a sniff of the White House, a sniff of the presidency, if Barack Obama didn't do a better job as president. Now, I know a lot of folks are going to say, well, wait, the economy is improving a little bit. We came out of the recession and all that. It's not about that. Barack Obama came across around the world as a lightweight, as a guy that didn't really stand up. He wasn't strong. He wasn't that alpha male. And Americans wanted a fighter. And they never got really that fighter in Barack Obama. He maybe thought he was a fighter for the American people, but the American people, especially in those Rust Belt states, never felt that he was really fighting for them. Donald Trump comes along. He's a fighter. He's an alpha male. And boom, there you go. The legacy of Barack Obama is Donald Trump. He's got to live with that. The reality is that if he were a better president, Donald Trump would not be president today. All right, when we come back, religious persecution in Turkey. Jennifer Wishon with that story when we come back. And welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File. Hey, by the way, a new report out showing that Christians are the most persecuted religious group in the entire world. And really, it should come as no surprise. We see stories of religious persecution of Christians all over the globe in this world. One of those places is Turkey. And Jennifer Wishon, here in the B Block, has that story of persecuted Christians in Turkey up against it.
In Turkey, American pastor Andrew Brunson sits in prison, facing trumped-up charges of terrorism. He's a Christian who lives and preaches in Turkey, and experts say that's enough to put him at risk.
So today, I would argue that Turkey, particularly Turkey's Christians and Jews, are going through a very difficult period.
Dr. Aykan Ademir is a Muslim Turk who's dedicated his career to helping Christians, Jews, and other religious minorities gain full religious freedom in his country. It was his core mission as a member of Turkey's parliament, but he faced roadblocks. Now he advocates from Washington, D.C., working with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies.
I think Christians have learned to live under constant threat of physical or symbolic violence. They're used to constant messages of hate. They're used to Turkey's culture of impunity, meaning they know that there will be very lenient sentencing to the assailants.
And things got worse last summer, he says, after a coup attempted to topple Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Turkish authorities were already suspicious of Protestants, especially missionaries. Since the coup, it's gotten worse.
When we talk about Turkey, we're talking about basically the biblical lands. This is the country that hosts a lot of the Jewish and Christian sites. So there's a very rich heritage, and it's so sad to see how Turkey's Islamists systematically not only marginalize them, but also portray them as being foreign.
In the coming months, Ademir fears other Protestant pastors and missionaries could be framed by security forces like Pastor Brunson. And following the coup, it's hard to find Turks willing to speak out for their Christian neighbors.
The majority of citizens are afraid to talk because since July 15th, 110,000 civil servants have been fired from their jobs, 37,000 people have been arrested, hundreds of news outlets, including newspapers, magazines, TV, and radio stations, have been closed.
It's an issue President-elect Trump will have to confront, as Ademir and others fear America's NATO ally increasingly resembles an authoritarian regime. Jennifer Wishon for the Brody File.
Jennifer Wishon here on the Brody File. All right, when we come back, Obamacare, front and center with the Trump administration. What's going to happen? How can they go about repealing and replacing this thing? Answers from Amber C. Strong when we come back. And welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File. All right, time now to talk about Obamacare. Yeah, sorry, liberals, it's going away. Now, the good news for you liberals is that it will go away slowly. They're not going to be able, they, being Republicans, Trump, not going to be able to repeal this thing right away altogether. But unfortunately for you liberals, it is going away, guaranteed. More on that from Amber C. Strong.
The results are in, and it's a big win for Obamacare, at least when it comes to the number of people seeking coverage.
If you're not covered yet, now is the time to sign up.
6.4 million Americans signed up for the healthcare exchange in 2017. That's up 400,000 from this time last year.
It's a mad dash for coverage before a Republican-controlled Congress and President-elect Trump take office. A new administration could spell a big loss for President Obama's signature health care bill.
Members of Congress hope to pass a budget in January that could allow them to quickly repeal the Affordable Care Act.
The sooner we can go in a different direction, the better.
Former Bush administration Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services Tevi Troy tells CBN News that it won't be as easy as some people think.
We're not sure that they can repeal the whole thing, and if they do so, they recognize that there are not 60 Republican votes in the Senate, so they would have to do something called reconciliation, which is a budgetary mechanism that lets you pass something with only 51 votes in the Senate, but it limits what you can do. So not everything, they can't do a bill that says we hereby repeal every jot and tittle of the Affordable Care Act.
Troy advises Republicans to take a different path than Democrats did before by pushing through one big bill. He suggests they come up with reforms to make health insurance cheaper and easier for people to purchase coverage. So what about the millions of Americans who now rely on Obamacare?
They will have to target whatever reform or replacement they do to make sure that those 20 million people are not disrupted and can get some care.
Another target for the new Congress could be defunding Planned Parenthood. Last go-around, Congress pushed to cut Medicaid money from Planned Parenthood, and for now that still appears to be the plan.
We've already shown what we believe with respect to funding Planned Parenthood. We put a bill on President Obama's desk in reconciliation. Our position has not changed.
President Obama vetoed that bill. But a new President Trump is coming to town, and pro-life advocates hope to gain ground this time around.
Last year, the House and the Senate passed a reconciliation spending bill that got to the president's desk, to President Obama's desk, that didn't include 80% of funding for Planned Parenthood. So that was huge. That would have defunded them $400 million plus. And that they need to do that again. So the path is more clear than it's ever been.
So what else is on Speaker Ryan's wish list? He says fixing a broken tax code and getting rid of government overreach take priority when the 115th Congress take office in January.
Amber C. Strong here on the Brody File. All right, when we come back, Dr. Ben Carson, he's going to be part of Trump's cabinet, Housing and Urban Development Secretary. What's that all about? Why exactly? Answers from someone who knows him well in a moment. And welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File. Hey, Ben Carson, nominated by Donald Trump to be Housing and Urban Development Secretary, or the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, however you want to say it. A lot of folks thought he might get the Health and Human Services spot, or possibly the Department of Education slot. He didn't. But you know, when it comes to housing and urban development, healthcare, education, two crucial parts of the infrastructure within many urban communities around the country, and Dr. Carson would probably do a pretty good job at that. But don't take my word for it. Dina Bass, who actually worked with Ben Carson on his campaign as communication director and is very well aware of what he and his wife Candy have done throughout their lives, discussed that with, guess what, Amber C. Strong. She's back. Have a look.
The rumor is that Dr. Carson was offered several other positions, but he chose HUD. Why?
You know, I do know that he wanted to be at HUD, you know, and people obviously say that HHS or Surgeon General will match him better because of his, you know, great experience in those areas. But HUD is ground zero for solving issues of poverty in our nation. You know, we've been fighting this war on poverty for 50 years and we are losing. And Dr. Carson and his wife Candy have done a lot of work to empower and increase opportunities for people in underserved communities. And so I think that he really does have a heart for this issue, and he is a solutionist. He is a results-driven, outcomes-driven solutionist, and that is simply what we need. We don't need politicians. We don't need the consultant class. We don't need people who are invested in ideology. We need people who are invested in outcomes, and that's what Dr. Carson is.
Speaking of Dr. Carson and Dr. Carson, because technically, when you talk about Candy Carson, she's been so pivotal in his outreach in the community with their reading rooms and things of that nature. How much of a voice was she on the campaign trail, and how much is she going to be in his future?
You know, well, they are a team, but I don't, to speak to what she will do in terms of in relation to HUD, she is his wife and she is his greatest champion. I absolutely loved being on the campaign trail with them. They are, and you've had a chance to be around them both. Dr. Carson is very calm and, even Steven. Candy Carson is a ball of energy. She's just a fierce force, and they have been a team for 40 years. And for me to get a chance to get to know them and see them together, working together to solve problems and help, advance opportunities to kids and offer scholarships with the Carson Scholars Fund, that was also a great thing to see. A lot of people don't understand the impact that Dr. Carson and Candy Carson have had with their reading rooms. I think it's like over 160 reading rooms across the U.S.
Amber C. Strong doing double duty here on the Brody File. Unfortunately, Amber, FYI, I don't think you're getting paid extra for that. But, hey, it's all part of a day's work. Back in a moment, with an Oy vey moment of the week where there's a lot of gibberish going on. Welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File. Hey, time now. We haven't done this in a while, but we're going to do it this week because, it's the new year. We want to start it off fresh. Time for the Oy vey moment of the week. Hey, look, one of the things we do here on the Brody File is we kind of have a lot of gibberish. We speak. We really don't know what we're saying overall. Well, this is a perfect example of when I had not a clue what I was saying. It actually happened on the 700 Club during a live shot. I had a little bit of a trouble getting this word out. There are folks up here on Capitol Hill that would like to actually see it to be 4+ years. Now, that's excuse me, I can't even say it, somewhat of a non-starter, if you will. There it is, the Oy vey moment of the week. I am this week's Oy vey moment of the week. Hey, all right, I win a trophy. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, everybody, God bless. Have a great week. We are going to have so much coverage of this inauguration.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Oh, that is amazing.
Wait till you see this, and liberals, I would go to sleep. Have a great week.